to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Guns, self-defense, concealed carry. This is the Patriot Defense Podcast. From the war room in Idaho's high desert, here's your host, Todd Echols.
And I am back once again. It is a Sunday morning, almost afternoon, and I am tucked away in the war room somewhere in the high desert of southern Idaho. And it's going to be our last nice weekend, I think. We're in the 80s this weekend, and we're supposed to drop off into the 50s and 60s next week. And I say, bring it on. It's the best time of year in my mind. I like it when it cools off. I like it when the leaves change. I like it when there's a little bit of bite in the air in the morning when you wake up. It's nice. And because the weather's been changing and it's been going from hot to very kind of mild and nice outside, I've been staying pretty busy with classes. Lots of private classes. I'm getting ready to finish up my women's classes. They have about another month left. So I'm kind of getting ready to wrap those up. We're just kind of waiting for the time change to get here, and we'll have our annual night shoot that we do with the men's and the women's groups. That'll be a lot of fun. We've been, let's see here. Sorry, I cleared my throat, my voice there. Allergies, but we got the Texas Star is done, and Jeff finished that and brought it over, and we've been shooting the heck out of that thing, and that is a blast. Every person that's taken a class here in the last week or so has got a chance to shoot at it. And the consensus is everyone loves it. It is a lot of fun. Now, right now, I'm pretty excited. Right now, we've got 8-inch plates that we are shooting off that thing. And we are getting to the point where I know Jeff got a hold of me and he's like, hey, I've got these smaller plates. What should I do with them? And I said, well, if you're asking me, I say we make another set of plates for the Texas Star. And so the ones we have on there right now are 8, and these ones are going to be like 2.7 inches. So it'll be a much better challenge, a much different challenge. And so we're looking forward to that. That's going to be a lot of fun. This time of year comes with me thinking of, okay, as it slows down here the next little while, it's time for me to kind of go through, look at the range, time to upgrade it a little. I won't say upgrade, but just time to maintain it. Time to bring more dirt in. And I'm actually looking at trying to maybe purchase some equipment to help me do so. I've got a tractor, but it doesn't have a bucket. I'm thinking of maybe trying to find and purchase an inexpensive skid loader or skid steer or whatever you want to call it, something on its last leg, something that's not going to run every day, something that'll help me get this dirt moved around here. This is just kind of the ongoing battles of owning a range, is constantly needing dirt, needing to move the dirt, and it's just, I've been lucky. I've been lucky so far. I've been doing this business almost 10 years. I've had this range here for 7, and I've had lots of family help, family who have had equipment that have come over and volunteered gladly, would use it and help me out. And it's getting to the point now they'd still help me if I asked, but I'm just getting tired of depending on someone else. I'd love to get some equipment and be able to maintain this all year long by myself, right? That's the ultimate goal. So I don't know. We're coming into that time of year. It's time to me to look at that and kind of go over some options there. What else is going on? I've got a permit class coming up next weekend, nice and full. And I would imagine it's because of the weather. The weather's supposed to be nice and cool, so that'll be absolutely fantastic. We've had some exciting stuff happen here, and we'll get into that here shortly. It's a whole big story in itself. I did notice a couple things, and just over the last, month or so, people coming in and taking lots of classes, and I wanted to touch on something that I've seen. Sometimes, and I know we make fun of different guns out there. I make fun of different brands of guns, and it's all in fun. And I mentioned, I think it was the last episode, even with this high point that I have here, that, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter a 10 millimeter, a 9 millimeter, or 380, the bullet doesn't care what it's shot from, right? It doesn't care. It's still going to go bang. It's gonna go through the barrel. It's going to go down range. It's going to strike the target. It does not care what it is shot from as far as handguns are concerned. Now, what is important is the fundamentals when you shoot that gun, whatever that handgun might be, right? And just because you don't have to have the most expensive, the fanciest gun on the planet to make that accurate shot or to be a good shooter. Now, really nice guns and nice equipment, they do help. They do help, right? You get what you pay for. And they make stuff easier. A nicer trigger makes the trigger press a little easier. A comfortable gun that's not going to beat you up when you press the trigger and with the recoil, it's going to be a lot nicer to shoot. Now, there's guns that we make fun of all the time. High Point, SCCY, they're not great. They're not great firearms, but can you use them for self-defense? Well, certainly you can. Can you learn how to shoot them effectively? Certainly you can. You can, and you don't need to go out and unless you just like to, right? I mean, I've got a nice, expensive gun, I guess, and it makes shooting great. It makes shooting, really nice. I enjoy shooting it, but you don't have to go out and spend a bunch of money to get a decent firearm that's going to go bang every time you press the trigger, right? You just need to put in the time. That's the secret. You need to put in the time. You need to put in the effort. You need to put in the practice. To do what? To learn it, learn the fundamentals, and you can be good with it. You can be accurate with it. You can be effective with the firearm. And I also see too that people that spend lots of money sometimes into taking classes and training classes, and they have multiple guns. And yeah, you need to be able to shoot all these guns, but you also need to pick one. Pick the gun that you're going to carry, right? Learn it. Dial in the fundamentals, and that gun is going to have a little different trigger. It's going to have a little different feel. It might, point, we call it point differently than another firearm. So if you're working on a skill, if you're working on a fundamental, you need to pick a gun and use it and learn those skills on that gun, right? Develop those skills, master those skills, and then pick up another firearm. Too many times I see people that have they have a lot of handguns. I get it, right? But they come in and they take a training class, and it's almost it's doable, but it's almost harder on them. They shoot a little, and they switch guns, and they shoot a little more, and then they switch guns. Pick one, and hone in your skills. Dial into your fundamentals. I get to having lots of guns is great. I mean, I have a handful myself, but pick a gun. And work on the skills. Develop the skills with that firearm. Then pick up another one, and work on the skills on it. Don't. How can I say this, right? It's fun to shoot a lot of guns, but you need to find one, learn it, and then move on. And then pick up another one and learn it, and then you can move on to another one. And learning it doesn't take place in 5-10 minutes. Like you got to put in the effort, put in the time, put in the rounds. Really hone your skills, dial it in, know how that gun recoils, know the recoil impulse of that gun. Every gun's gonna, the way it's built with the ergonomics, and is it a striker fired gun? Is it a hammer fired gun? The recoil impulse is going to feel different. It's going to be different. The trigger is going to feel different. The trigger is going to be different. And you need to learn that. You need to learn that and develop the skills on that firearm. Once you have, then you look at it and you go, okay, I can move on to the next. But if you keep switching up, it's going to be way harder to get those things dialed in. It's going to take way longer for you to develop the skills necessary to be able to shoot that gun effectively. It's just kind of something that I've noticed a handful of people doing, and I just kind of wanted to point that out. I mean, and you do you. If you just want to, that's fine. But just know it's going to be harder to develop those skills. Pick a gun. Pick a gun. That's it. Pick a gun. It's that important moving forward. What else do I got here? Some of the topics I got are going a little bit quicker than I thought they would. Let me, just for everyone, to give everyone an update. I have not done anything else with the High Point, the JXB10 for hunting yet. Hunting season does start next week. It starts this coming week. So it starts on Tuesday, which would be the 10th. I don't have any plans to take the gun out right away. I will take it out, but first things first. I know it's important because I've hyped it up a little bit that I'm going to go out and do this, and I am going to do it. But I have my 9-year-old son who is getting ready to go hunting himself. In fact, as soon as I get done with this podcast and off the microphone here, I got to take him out and we got to work on his shooting some more because his season starts, the open season here in Idaho, the general deer season starts on the 10th. He turns 10 on the 12th, so he can start hunting on his birthday, which would be the 12th. So he's getting pretty excited for that. So we got to just kind of work on some of his skills just a little bit more and get him shooting. He shot a bunch from, sitting on a chair, table, kind of like a bench rest type shooting. And now we're going to get him out and have him shoot off the bipod a little bit and have him kind of feel what that's like. Because obviously we're not going to have a table and chairs when we go out looking for deer for this guy next week. So he's going to have to shoot off the bipod. So that's what we're going to work on doing now. Unfortunately, he's just a little guy. So holding even the rifle that he's shooting, it is going to be way too long and way too heavy for him to hold. Even a youth model, right? You get a youth length stock. It's just a little too big for him to hold up. So he's going to have a rest of some sort, whether that be the bipods, whether that be a fence post, whether that be a rock, whatever it is. And it's the way I've done it with all my kids. They've all needed a rest of some sort. And so he's going to learn to shoot off that later on today. I think we're going to take him out to just about 100 yards on my property, the way I have stuff situated. Can't quite get him to 100. I think I can get him to about 88, 89 yards. And if he's confident, competent at that, and he is a pretty good little shooter. If he can hold a group inside of a milk jug, I am confident that if we see a deer, minus the nerves, that he's got the skills to get it done at least at 100 yards. So I'll try not to give him, I'm going to keep him within that distance. My oldest son, when he first went out, his first deer, he was shooting a little bit bigger gun, and he got a good rest. He was able to sit down. He was able to put up a little mini bipod that we had attached to his rifle. He got a really good rest, and with one shot, he took his deer out at like 340 yards. First shot, bam, dropped the deer. I honestly was stunned. I was stunned. I figured it took him a while to get everything lined up, and by the time he did, I was like, man, those deer are going to be gone. And I just kept watching him get further and further and further and further. And I'm like, there's no way. He's just going to shoot. It's going to hit the sagebrush. The deer are going to run away. And he shot, and sure enough, he dropped one. And I think I was actually more excited than him. So I'm looking forward to reliving that experience with my little guy. Hopefully, I'm not going to let him take any 300-plus yard shots. And that shot, honestly, did not start out at 300 yards. They just kept moving. And I kept watching them through the rangefinder that I had. And I was like, oh, man, they're just getting too far out. But he did it. He connected. He was absolutely on top of the world. So we'll see what happens. It's first year. I've convinced him that, hey, look, we may go out and you may have the skill set needed, but it's called hunting, not killing. We may not see anything or get a chance to shoot at anything. So that's kind of out there for him. So we'll see what happens. He's pretty stoked. I want to talk about an incident, and it's kind of just a petty little thing, really. Something that happened in one of my classes earlier this week. Now, there's other competition in this area, and I've talked about this before, about how cutthroat the firearms instructor business can be around here. We're not a happy family. It's just the way it is. We're not a happy family. There's been a lot going on with my radio show and with ads that I've been running on the station and stuff like that. And it's really kind of ruffling some feathers and irritating some people. And it all started with a competitor at one point actually asked to lease my range, and I told him no. And couldn't believe that they even asked, but I told them, yeah, no, that's not going to work. Just because you want to start doing classes, just because you've sent some business my way and now you've decided you want to do this on your own, this isn't going to happen, right? So it's just, we're just not a happy family in this area. Okay. It's just, we're just not. And I don't know for sure. I had an incident that happened earlier this week on Thursday evening, and I don't know for sure what it was all about. And I'm going to go ahead but I want to tell you the story, but I want to tell you, I don't know what it's all about. I know what I'm told, and then I know what I believe. I know what my gut says. And my gut is saying one thing based on everything else that has happened. So I'm just not 100%. So where I live, where my range is, where my house is, where my business is I live off of a main road, but I have a driveway that there's other houses on. And the driveway is, what is the driveway? The driveway is the driveway is like a half a mile long. The driveway is a half a mile long. I'm trying to remember. It is a half a mile long. Now I live at the very end of the drive, so I'm half a mile from the main road. The other houses are way closer to the end. They're probably within the first quarter mile, right? The last house is like a quarter mile from the main road. And it's a dirt drive. It's got a name, one of those names that you can I'm going to name my driveway. I'm going to name my dirt lane. And so they put up a guy by the name of Lowry. He lives out here, and he put up a sign that said Lowry Lane. It's been there for years. And I think as far as the mailing addresses is concerned, I think it's labeled as 4350 is the road, but it's not a county road. It's a dirt drive. They don't maintain it. They do I wish they'd come and maintain it. They don't maintain it. They don't do anything. It's like a right of way that we all share in this driveway. And so, the other houses, I won't give you guys can look up my address if you want. I won't give the actual address, but the other houses are, I'm D, right? We're all the same house number, but we're letters. We got A, B, C, and D, and I am D. I'm at the end of the lane. I've lived here about 7 years now. And besides the farmers that have to come down here or, to get to their fields, right? Because I'm just surrounded by farmland. I'm surrounded by farmers' fields. Nobody comes down here besides them and my students, right? No one visits me. My students will come down and they will obviously use the driveway, but nobody comes down this road. There's no need. It's a dirt lane. It's rough. It's bumpy. It's not a nice road. So nobody comes down here because it's pretty much a private lane. Well, Thursday night, when my women's class was getting over with and they were all leaving, I was gathering up my bag, my first aid kit, that kind of stuff, and I turned around to notice that there was a local sheriff's deputy parked pretty close to my house, probably 50 yards from my property, right? And they were parked on this private drive. And I saw all my students leaving, and then the deputy turned, and he was parked, and he pulled out in them and left. And I saw him go out to the main road, and I saw him park in this big open area. And so I was like, that's weird. And so I called one of my students and she goes, yep, I was following. He's in front of me and he pulled into this empty lot. So I decided to jump into my vehicle. I'm going to go down and see what's going on because here's the thing. I do have this range. We were shooting. I'm not illegal. I'm not doing anything wrong. I've never had any problems whatsoever. And I was kind of concerned he's down here. Did something happen? Did somebody call something in? Did I miss something? Or is there a felon, some kind of convict that escaped that is running through the area that I need to know about? Because that happens, right? And so, but they had never made contact with me. So I drove down and I drove up and I was chatting with them. And the story I got was that they were doing a map survey. And immediately as I pulled up and I introduced myself, and told them, hey, I'm down here. This is where I live. My class was down here and they were leaving and I saw you. No one ever comes down this driveway. No one ever has any reason to come down this private drive. Can I help you with something? Is there something I need to be aware of? Or were you looking for me or what? And he said, well, I'm doing a map survey. Is that your house down there? I said, yeah, that's my house. And they're like, well, is there anyone else that lives in the other building out there? Is there anyone? I said, no. I said, that's my building. That's my classroom. It's my workshop. It's my range. Told him who I was and what I do. And he goes, well, is that dirt driveway? Is that called Lowry Lane? And I said, well, yeah, it is. The sign at the end of the road says it's Lowry Lane. And I said, it's also referred to as 4350. But you should know that. Like it's, And so I told him that and he's like, oh. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'm done here. I'm going to take off. So I left. I was told later on, I made some phone calls and I was told later on that this person was out training and whatnot. And there was another officer there as well, that they were out training and they were showing them, checking out my driveway, showing them where everything was at. But there's no, that still doesn't fly with me. Maybe it's true, but it doesn't sit well with me with the history of what's been going on with other firearms instructors. And I tell you what, go check out the podcast of the last podcast I did. I played my ad that I wrote myself, and it talks about my classroom being close to the range. And it's kind of picking on this other place because when they do their classes, they have their classroom portion there, and then they have to drive like 20, 30 minutes down the road to go to this range and shoot. And I never called them out by name, but I just point out that when my students come here, I care about my students. I don't want them to waste fuel. I don't want them to waste time. That I got everything right here. My range is steps away from my classroom. We're a one-stop shop. And, I did everything that every other business owner does. I pointed out all the benefits of my business and my setup over maybe my competitors, right? Without saying that. And then a week later, this happens. I don't understand why that deputy was down here. I have no idea. There's no reason. And he said he was driving down, saw everyone leaving, and so they pulled over to let people go by, and then he joined it. There's no reason. If you got a problem, if there was a problem with me, if there's a problem with what I'm doing, they would have come in and they would have made contact. I'm not quite sure why they were down here by my house, down the driveway. That makes zero sense to me. I understand that they might have been training, but there's still, honestly, that's no reason for them to come down the driveway. And it almost looked like they were scoping out my house, like they were scoping out my property. Like maybe they were, I don't know. And I'm not blaming the local law enforcement for doing that as much as I am. I know one of my other local competitors, a few of my local competitors are ex-law enforcement and whatnot. And it makes me just a little suspicious of, are their county resources being used for this? I don't know. I don't even know what to think anymore, but it's the first time in 7 years this has happened. And so I'm just a little concerned, I guess. And I just don't know that I buy the excuse of them training. That just doesn't sit well with me. So is anything going to come of this? Am I going to do anything about this? Not really. It's pretty much over at this point, I think. I hope. We'll see if anything develops. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they were just training and it was just a training thing. Still think it's weird. Why would you come down and train on a private drive? I don't understand that. I don't get that. It makes no sense to me. But I think at this point, I'm just going to kind of like let it go and see what happens. But yeah, that was kind of the weird thing that happened last week. And so I don't know, competition's ramping up, I suppose. It's just all absolutely ridiculous around here. So as far as competition wise and other instructors, and I made it a point this year to let everyone know that I've been the longest running instructor in the Valley. I've been doing this 10 years. And so maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. I guess if you're being noticed and they're causing you problems, your competition is trying to cause you problems, I guess that's a good sign, right? You're doing something right because they're nervous. I mean, is that a thing? I hope. Who knows? I really don't know. Now, one more thing I wanted to bring up, and this is kind of a short show, and I'm constantly apologizing. So just go ahead, and I'm just going to put a blanket apology out there for everything and just put a pin in that, and just that can affect everything else. But there is, I've been seeing things where people have problems with their fire. I know I've picked on guys behind the gun counter. I've picked on guys behind the gun counter, people that sell the guns before, and and their excuses and she's a woman, she needs a revolver, or she's a woman, she needs this, and them putting people who purchase guns into like a little box and just assuming they know what's best for them. Well, now it's time to leave them alone. And now what I'm going to pick on is gunsmiths. I see there's some blanket excuses that I think are being used to a certain extent. I've had some people that have had problems with guns this year, and they take them to gunsmiths, different gunsmiths, and the answer that they get their gun worked on a little bit, but the answer is oh, I've shot it, it's fine, you're limp wristing it. Well, I'm an instructor, and I've seen limp wristing. I know what limp wristing is, and some of these are on a 22 semi-auto. Okay. It's really hard to limp wrist a 22 semi-auto unless it's a little teeny tiny, like LCP 2 or whatever, a little tiny 22, right? It's really hard to limp wrist a full size 22 semi-automatic that barely has any recoil, right? And I can shoot it and it does the same thing. So I don't know what's going on here, but I tell you what, gunsmiths out there need to possibly just do a little bit better. And I'm not going to say that they all do this. But I tell you what, the gun that I'm referring to, I don't want to get too much into the details. That gun is going to come back to class in a couple weeks, and I'm going to have everyone in the class shoot it. I'm going to offer up some ammo and have everyone in the class shoot it. And I'm going to see how many times the thing malfunctions. And if it malfunctions because it's malfunctioned for me and it's malfunctioned for the owner. If it malfunctions for the other 13 people in the class, then there's a problem with the gun. I mean, that's just plain and simple. There's a problem with the gun. And if it boils down to there's a problem with the gun, I will then let you guys know what gun it was. Because not everyone's going to limp wrist this thing. I don't know. No, that's not a lot of information to go on. Actually, I'll throw that out there. If you guys have a SIG, what is it? The 22 SIG. It's a handgun. Is it the 3022 or whatever it is? The 3022. I think that's what it is. Their newer one. It's a full-size 22 semi-auto. That's the one that's having problems. And when it first came to class, the thing was running like a champ. Like it ran for 4 months. It was brand new. It ran zero problems whatsoever. And it's been cleaned numerous times. And now it's just starting to choke. It doesn't feed well. We got light strikes on the primers, using all different ammo. It happens for the owner. It happens for me. And I'm going to test it with everyone else and see if it happens for them as well. It is crazy because that same person did purchase a new 22 and they can shoot it just fine. They can shoot the heck out of it. It just bang, 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 like no problem. They picked up a Taurus TX22, one of my favorite guns, and the thing just shoots. Same ammo, same person shooting, same amount of recoil, pretty much same everything, right? And it shoots fine, like no problem. She has like no problems with it. But as soon as they pick up the SIG all of a sudden has all these issues. And maybe it's just a gun thing, and I shouldn't be picking on the gunsmith. And maybe it's just a gun thing. But I just don't think that telling someone that they're limp wristing the gun is a problem. Because I had this happen earlier this year with a gentleman who came in. He's actually still in classes, still taking classes from me. And he had a gun, and they supposedly fixed it, and they told him he was limp wristing it. And then I had him come back out, and he was not limp wristing it. That gun just had issues. He was not him. So I'm kind of wondering if this is just kind of a blanket statement now. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes. I know that's not all information to go off of, but there you go. Keep you guys questioning what the heck is going on. So that's your show this week. I'll try to come in. I would love to come in and try to do an extra show this week. I do have some guests lined up. Some really awesome, as my women's groups get close to ending, I got a handful of ladies I want to get in here and have do a podcast with, because they are phenomenal. They've had great classes and they've improved so much, and I want to get their take on the classes and kind of what they thought. So we'll get that coming. If you guys got any questions, got any comments, you can always call me. You can text me, area code 620-794-6223. It's area code 620-794-6223. Find us on all the social medias, all that stuff, the Instagram, the Facebook, the TikTok, all that. And I'm going to let you go because I see my 9-year-old looking through the window at me, through the window of the war room. And he's like, Dad, you said after your podcast we can go shoot that rifle. So I think he's wanting to get it done. So he's actually made an appearance, like leaving the house. He's left the house. He's outside now. This is a good thing, folks, because he really likes his Oculus video game player thing that I know nothing about. But anyhow, I'm coming, but he's looking in the window. I got to get out there. We got to go shoot this thing. So I'll talk to you folks later. Have a good week. Bye.